My name is Ryan, and this is Sleep Update video number 2. Before we start today's video, I'd like to take a moment to promote the channel. Let's see here. I've got a testimonial from some viewers. Garrett and Tucker said that Ryan Sleeps is, quote, bad and boring. Okay, on to the video. Okay, so in the last video, I told you that I have sleep apnea. Some people asked last time whether I've already tried PAP therapy, for example, a CPAP machine or a BiPAP machine. The answer is yes. With some rare exceptions though, I have not been able to get it to work for me. I've also tried a mandibular advancement device. I've tried Excite OSA. I have tried positional therapy. I've tried sleeping on an incline. I've tried a lot of things. And since I'm not able to make PAP therapy work for me, and I have not had any luck with mandibular advancement devices or other things, I have turned to surgery. Surgery is the plan. You might recall that last time I said that I was getting about 6 hours of sleep on average. The same is true now. It fluctuates a little bit. Sometimes it's 5.5. Sometimes it's as high as 6.3, I think is my new high score. But in general, it's around 6.0 hours of sleep per night, including all naps, averaged over an entire month. I was also concerned about my deep sleep last time. I mentioned that on multiple in-lab sleep studies, I've gotten a few minutes of deep sleep or 10 minutes of deep sleep, way less than the hour or 2 hours that would be ideal. Since then, I purchased a headband called the Muse S headband. If you only want to measure how much deep sleep you're getting, I would recommend that headband. I found out that I was getting enough, or at least close to enough, and that experience further solidified my belief that non-head based trackers, for example, watches, rings, this sort of thing, that they cannot accurately determine how much deep sleep you're getting. So why wasn't I getting enough deep sleep in those in-lab sleep studies? I don't know. All right, so we're gonna jump around in time a little bit here. During my sleep study in Boston in July 2024, they said that my AHI was 6, which honestly made me feel a little imposter syndrome-y, because 6 is barely over the threshold of 5 events per hour. Should I just suck it up if my AHI is 6, if it's barely over the line? Maybe my sleep apnea is not really that bad, right? Well, that's why you need to know your RDI. It stands for Respiratory Disturbance Index, and it's like the AHI with apneas and hypopneas, but it also throws in a thing called a RERA, Respiratory Effort Related Arousal. So it's how many of any of those things all together did you have on average per hour of sleep. And just like AHI, the apnea-hypopnea index, when it comes to your RDI, your respiratory disturbance index, it should be below 5. You want to have fewer than 5 events per hour. It's debatable whether that's even okay, but at a bare minimum, you want to have fewer than 5 events per hour, whether it's your AHI or your RDI. And once again, I have to mention the fact that I am not a professional. If you have to weight my opinion, I would weight it somewhere between an anti-vaxxer and the top professionals in the world. I'm somewhere in the middle there. Is that helpful? I thought I was going to get an RDI from that sleep study, but I did not. So instead, I signed up for another in-lab sleep study that I did in Austin, Texas in December of 2024. And I made sure in advance that they were going to score RERAs, respiratory effort related arousals, so that I would get an RDI, a respiratory disturbance index, when it was done. So I went into this sleep study thinking, okay, my last one showed that my AHI was 6. That doesn't sound like it's even worth mentioning hardly. But what about my RDI? Maybe my RDI is a lot higher because I don't feel good. I don't feel like I'm sleeping well. And when they did this more sophisticated in-lab study, they found that my AHI was 18 and my RDI was 23. Even though I haven't changed anything, I've gone from having an AHI that's barely over the line to 3 times that on the AHI, and even more than that if you include the RDI. So now I'm feeling kind of validated. I'm feeling less imposter syndrome-y, right? It's like, okay, I'm having 23 breathing events per hour on average. That's not good. It's classified as moderate sleep apnea, but the truth is these mild, moderate, severe labels don't mean a whole lot. It's more like, do you have sleep apnea or not? And what are your symptoms? What is the effect it's having on your life? Now, one caveat to that is, regardless of what you think your symptoms are or how you're feeling, if your oxygen is dropping sufficiently low, a sufficient number of times per night, you can't get around that. Even if you think that you're sleeping well and you think you feel good, that's going to catch up to you and damage internal organs sooner or later. On the other hand, my oxygen does not drop much at night, thankfully, but despite the fact that it's not dropping, my sleep is still getting very fragmented by all of these arousals that happen when I wake up just enough to tone my airway so that I can breathe. Even though I don't remember it, it's a micro arousal, right? So there's no memory happening. And that does fragment your sleep, and it can lead to a whole bunch of mental health issues, fatigue, ADHD, depression, these sorts of things. And as with the previous study, most of my breathing events turned out to be hypopneas. So it didn't actually turn out to be the case that I had just a few hypopneas and a whole lot of RERAs. It was actually just mostly hypopneas, but then also a handful of RERAs as well. Okay, so now we're jumping back in time, right? Because this was December. Now we're moving back to October 2024. In my last video, I said that I was going to see a new doctor and ask if I was a candidate for a certain kind of surgery. Well, that surgery was maxillomandibular advancement, aka MMA surgery, which is also known as double jaw surgery. This is all just different ways of saying the same thing. So in maxillomandibular advancement surgery, they pull your maxilla and your mandible forward, which opens up space in your airway, in your pharyngeal airway, so that you can breathe better. That's the idea anyway. So I met with this doctor in St. Louis. His name is Reza Movahed. I was expecting him to say, your sleep apnea is not bad enough to warrant double jaw surgery, but thanks for stopping by. To my surprise, we did CBCT scans. He looked at my airway, he kind of evaluated my face, and we went over some things, and he said he does think that I'm actually a reasonable candidate for MMA surgery. I was kind of floored by this news because I thought, I'm so used to dead ends and things not working out the way that I wanted them to. The idea that I am actually a candidate for maxillomandibular advancement surgery, the thing that could really fix this, it was amazing. So that's it, right? So all I need to do is get double jaw surgery with Dr. Movahed, and it's easy, right? Well, the first thing you have to do when you get double jaw surgery is you have to have orthodontic work. You have to have braces for many months, maybe a year, maybe longer, to position your teeth so that when the double jaw surgery is complete, you will have an appropriate bite. So I go and I get braces with an orthodontist, and everything's going well until I learn something that makes me change the plan. So my current belief on this is that good sleep breathing requires at least two components. It requires good nasal breathing and a good pharyngeal airway. If you just have one or the other, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. There's not a world in which you breathe through your mouth all night, every night, and you breathe well. You really should spend most of the time breathing through your nose. I was blissfully unaware of this until pretty recently. I do not breathe through my nose very much overnight. I appear to maybe do it for about an hour, and then I open my mouth and I'm mouth breathing most or all of the rest of the night. So that's not great. But the thing that really scared me was when I learned about the existence of some people who have gotten double jaw surgery, and they go on to not sleep well even after that. It has not resolved their issue. Assuming that they're advanced far enough, you still might not be able to breathe well in your sleep if your nasal breathing is not good. My nasal breathing is mediocre at best. It could be worse, but it is not good. I didn't even realize this until somebody kind of spoke the right words to wake me up. Specifically, this was CPAP Friend, so thank you, CPAP Friend, for waking me up on the nasal breathing front. So originally, I was thinking about it like this. I thought, I can sit here and close my mouth and just breathe through my nose during the day. Therefore, my nose isn't the issue, right? But he kind of woke me up and made me pay more attention. And when I did that, I noticed that my nose is sometimes completely sufficient for breathing when I'm upright and I'm awake. It's during the day. But if I'm lying down or I'm waking up out of sleep, sometimes my nose is very, very stuffy. And that led me to realize that just because your daytime nasal breathing is sufficient does not mean that your during sleep nasal breathing is sufficient. So now I'm starting to worry a little bit because I don't want to be the guy who goes through double jaw surgery and still has sleep apnea because I'm still not breathing well through my nose at night. And now we've got to jump back even further in time. So go back with me to 20 years ago. 20 years ago, my nasal breathing was sufficiently bad that it bothered me during the day. I went to an ENT and they told me that I had a deviated septum and enlarged turbinates. So the outcome of that was to get a septoplasty and a turbinate reduction. And the septoplasty by itself did not help my nasal breathing much. Once I had gotten the turbinate reduction, my nasal breathing was significantly better. I don't know if it required both for that to work or if just the turbinate reduction was sufficient. But in any case, my nasal breathing was not good a long time ago. So what do you do when you've already gotten a septoplasty and a turbinate reduction and you need to make sure that your nasal breathing is sufficiently good during sleep? Apparently, you look at maxillary expansion. Again, this is your maxilla. This bone here is your maxilla. It's the roof of your mouth. It's also the floor of your nose. So if you expand it laterally this way, you make the roof of the mouth wider and you also make the floor of the nose wider. By widening the floor of the nose, you open up that space so that more air can come through and improve your nasal breathing. And when I talk to people about this, the consensus was if you're going to do both maxillary expansion and maxillomandibular advancement, you really want to do maxillary expansion first. So for all of these reasons, I have decided to change the plan and get maxillary expansion first, and then do double jaw surgery if necessary, which it probably will be down the line. All right, so thank you for watching me get progressively sweatier as this video went along. I'm gonna go enjoy the fresh air now.